Hello music fans, you're watching Death by Unicorn, where we talk about metal, rock, and prog music. And September 2025 is over now, so it's time to count down my 10 favorite albums of September. Starting with my number 10, which is by a German band. I'm not sure if I'm going to pronounce the name correctly here. I think it's Der Weg einer Freiheit. I don't know if I said that correctly. I'll put the spelling in the description, the video description. And the album is called Innern. And this is progressive, atmospheric, post-black metal. I'm putting this one in my excellent tier. And check out the track EOS for a preview here. This is the 6th album by this German band. And if you're a fan of bands like Havukruunu, Abigail Williams, Xanthocroid, Aquilus, and Enslaved, I think you'll like this. It's that kind of adventurous, cinematic, heavy but melodic and atmospheric, progressive black metal music. Check that out. That's Innern by Der Weg einer Freiheit. And at number 9, I've got Revocation with New Gods, New Masters. This one's progressive technical death metal with some thrash metal influences, also in my excellent tier. And check out the track Sarcophagi of the Soul for a preview of this one. There's some other great tracks on here too, like Confines of Infinity that features Travis Ryan of Cattle Decapitation. And this is Revocation's 9th album. They're an American band, and I love their last album as well, Nether Heaven from 2022. I thought it was excellent. And this band, they just really know how to play guitar. If you're a fan of Fallujah and other technical death metal like that has crazy guitar, definitely check this out. And this new one keeps the sound of their last one going, maybe just edges it out a bit in terms of quality, but it's pretty close to what they did on their last album. So if you like that, I think you'll like this. And I also think if you're a fan of the Faceless, you should like this. The guitar here is just crazy. It's adventurous like that. And they've got some great guest features on here from Johnny Davey from Job for a Cowboy and Travis Ryan of Cattle Decapitation and jazz guitarist Gilad Hexelman. That sounds good to you. Check out New Gods, New Masters by Revocation. At number 8, keeping the theme of intense brutality and heaviness going here. It was a pretty heavy month for music. There's a couple maybe slightly lighter ones on here, but it's a pretty prog metal heavy one this month. I've got Amorphis with their album Borderland, and this is progressive melodic death metal with folk metal, doom metal, heavy metal, hard rock influences. Check out the track The Lantern for a preview here. This is Amorphis' 15th album. They're a Finnish band, and this was actually the first full album of theirs that I've heard. The singles I checked out ahead of time sounded like they'd be right up my alley, so I put this on my list, and every song on the album's great. Some of my favorites at the moment are Tempest, The Lantern, and Bones. If you like progressive melodic death metal stuff, if you like even just any melodic death metal stuff like Scar Symmetry, Dark Tranquility, Arch Enemy, In Flames, and Soilwork, and you want to hear those bands with some more progressive flair like In Vain, Persephone, Opeth, and Wintersun, but also sprinkling in some doom influences for fans of Catatonia and some folk influence for fans of Orphan Land, how they sprinkle that folk into their progressive metal. That's kind of what this sounds like here. And some moments even give me more progressive power metal vibes for fans of Evergrey. Really like how the vocals on this from Amorphis, they have a lot of clean vocals and they're beautifully done. And they have really catchy anthemic hooks, but then they also have those deep growling vocals that provide great heaviness and contrast. I like the production, how the guitars sound, how there's keyboards, synths, and strings that make everything sound epic. And the compositions, how the songs take you on an epic journey. They dabble in odd time signatures. They have cool key changes. and they always remain so melodic but so intense, so heavy and powerful at the same time. If that sounds good to you, check out Borderlands by Amorphis. At number 7, I have Stoned Jesus and their album Songs to Sun. This is progressive stoner doom metal with progressive rock, psychedelic rock, stoner rock influences. Check out the track Low for a preview here, or Shadowland is another great one. And this is the 6th album by this Ukrainian band, Stoned Jesus. Funny band name, but great band. And this is the first album in a forthcoming trilogy that will see Songs to Moon and Songs to Earth come in the next couple of years. And this was actually also the first album that I've heard from Stoned Jesus in full, but I went back and I checked out some of their earlier work after this, and it's also excellent stuff. Really cool band, really cool label, Season of Mist, and was happy to get the early promo of this one to check out. If you're a fan of Alice in Chains, Black Sabbath, those kinds of bands with big, doomy, grungy riffs, but you want to hear that done in a little bit more of a progressive way, like with hints of Mastodon and Porcupine Tree, check this out. It's almost all clean vocals, but there was a moment in a track that smacked me in the face with some blast beats and almost black metal shrieks for a bit. I think the track was Low. I don't remember which track did that, but very cool stuff here from Stoned Jesus. At number 6, I've got Green Carnation and their album A Dark Poem Part 1, The Shores of Melancholia. This one's progressive doom metal with gothic metal, alternative metal, death metal, post-metal, black metal, and progressive rock influences. Check out the track, the songs, The Shores of Melancholia, for a preview here. This is the 7th album by Green Carnation. They're a Norwegian band, and they formed way back in 1990, so they've been going for a long time. It was formed by the Emperor bass player Terje Vikskje before he joined Emperor. And that lineup of the band actually split up, and the remaining members created the excellent band In the Woods. So definitely check this album out if you like the band In the Woods. It reminds me a bit of them. And for the first 3 tracks of the album, they reminded me of Nevermore. They used mostly clean vocals. They were powerful, operatic, doomy vocals. Then track 4 of the album started with these intense, harsh screams and tremolo pick guitar, and keeps going with a black metal style vocal that actually reminded me more of Emperor and Enslaved before going back to these nice clean vocals. So yeah, this one inspired me to check out their previous album as well, Leaves of Yesteryear from 2020, also excellent. Check this band out if you want to hear some In the Woods meets Nevermore meets Emperor meets Enslaved and Catatonia kind of all mixed together. That's what you get here from Green Carnation, A Dark Poem Part 1, The Shores of Melancholia. At number 5, I've got a weird one here from a band called Igorrr. It's Igorrr, and the album's called Amen. And this is experimental, progressive, psychedelic art rock with post-punk, pop, avant-garde, metal influences in here. Very strange. Check out the track Blast Beat Falafel for a preview here. This is a French artist, Igorrr, and it's more of a solo project for Gauthier Serre, who plays guitar and does vocals. He does programming and other instrumentation. So it's kind of like he's the creative force, not really a band, but he has assembled the band. So there's lots of collaborators here, headbutts and awesome tracks. And Blast Beat Falafel features Trace Bruence of Mr. Bungle and Secret Chiefs 3. And they've also got a track that features Scott Ian of Anthrax. Just lots of intense, harsh vocals on this album, heavy guitar riffs, blast beats, but also electronic and industrial aspects and operatic female vocals, choirs, as well as some Middle Eastern vibes in spots and like surf music vibes. A lot of very weird stuff on here. If you're a fan of like Mr. Bungle, kind of like Mr. Bungle meets Meshuggah, Between the Buried and Me, and like techno and opera, like all in there. So very weird. Not too many bands that sound like this, but check out Amen by Igorrr if you want to hear that. At number 4, I've got a band called Vianova with their album Hit It. This is progressive metalcore, pretty djenty, a little bit alternative metal, funk, and even some pop influence in there. All the albums that I've talked to this far have been in my excellent tier, but this one I think crosses into a near masterpiece tier. Check out the track Whatever All Right for a preview here. Vianova is a German band. They've got all these djenty rhythms and guitar playing for fans of Periphery and Corellia. They have wild genre switch-ups reminiscent of this year's release from the Callous Dow Boys. They have soaring, high-pitched, clean vocals that remind me of those bands I mentioned, plus Protest the Hero a little bit, and also some harsh vocal moments. The track, Whatever All Right, just sounds like it could be played in a club with these EDM backbeats and almost mumble rap vocals, but then they have the wild djent breakdown and harsh screams to end the song. So a lot of twists and turns on this album. Hit It by Vianova. And number 3, this is probably the softest one on my list today. There's been lots of kind of more heavy stuff here. But this one is still quirky and avant-garde. It's Wippy, Bonstack, and Correct Irregulars. This one's avant-garde, experimental, progressive rock. It's got art rock, pop, math rock, indie rock, electronic influences. Check out the track Wish Tank for a preview of this one. Unfortunately, last I checked, this one, Correct Irregulars by Wippy Bonstack, is not on Spotify. But this is on Bandcamp. You can buy the digital download for Name Your Price. So I think that's pretty awesome, pretty great. So if you want to get a near free or whatever you're willing to pay Wippy Bonstack for this album, you can go get it over on Bandcamp, get a digital download. This is the 4th album by Wippy Bonstack. He's an American artist. It's the solo project of the songwriter-composer Ben Conigliaro, who has played in some bands as well, Sun Colored Chair, Wix, and In Dream View. And this is actually his 2nd album this year, and his other albums are excellent as well, but I think this one's better. This one's in my near masterpiece tier. He's been busy this year. His first album this year was instrumental, but this one has vocals, both male and female. Very quirky, very fun, very complex. If you're a fan of Bubble Math, Mr. Bungle, King Crimson, it's all over the place like those bands. It's complex, but it somehow manages to do all that while being more accessible than those other bands I mentioned. And yeah, they've got Wippy Bonstack himself on electric guitar, acoustic guitar, vocals, drums, bass, piano, analog synth, keyboards, melodica, glockenspiel, and percussion. Elizabeth Smiland on vocals on many tracks, as well as flute. Quinn Conigliaro on bass, and John Rockeke on tenor saxophone on a couple of tracks, and Andres O'Lowry on trumpet on a couple of tracks. So lots of cool collaborators and really great music here. And at number 2, I've got Dance Gavin Dance with Pantheon. This is post-hardcore with progressive rock, math rock, experimental rock influences, also in my near masterpiece tier. Check out the track Midnight at McGuffey's for a preview here. This one, I was on the border between whether I should get into my near masterpiece tier and excellent tier, but because there was a couple of songs on this album that kind of annoyed me and really overdid it a little bit too much with the auto-tune. But there's also a couple of tracks on here that are just amazing, like Midnight at McGuffey's. And this is their 11th album. Dance Gavin Dance is an American band. And I think all their albums are at least very good. Some of them are near masterpieces. I don't think this is their best album, though it's kind of close. They're very consistent. They've really done it again, another near masterpiece in their catalog. And yeah, like what I said about Deftones, this is just a consistent band. All their albums have a similar vibe, that fast guitar, post-hardcore vibe. but they do manage to still keep being really entertaining within that style and finding new ways to push that style. Like I said, this album has a bit more auto-tune than what they usually do, but they use it artistically and tastefully rather than as a crutch or in a cringeworthy way, so I'm okay with it. Just not sure about how they do it in the track Space Cow Initiation Ritual. That was a bit too much, and the borderline hip-hop moment in lyrics where they say, "Hey, mother sucker, do you want a funk?" I thought was a little cringeworthy. But the rest of the tracks were good. Even the hook on that song's pretty good. As usual, it's mostly clean vocals here from Dance Gavin Dance, but they do have some harsh vocals, and guitars are really the star of the show on this album. Gotta love Midnight at McGuffey's, and A Shoulder to Cry On is another great track, which is kind of a slower one. And my number one of September is pretty obvious. It has to be Between the Buried and Me with The Blue Nowhere. And this is a true masterpiece. I put this in my masterpiece tier, one of only 2 albums this year that I've given that masterpiece rating. This is progressive metalcore with technical death metal influences. Check out the track Absent thereafter for a preview here, where they get those kind of bluesy southern rock, bluegrass, country guitars going wild. This is the 11th album by Between the Buried and Me. They're an American band. They've been in the running for my favorite band of all time ever since 2007's Colors, and I think they are now my number one band of all time after this one. Every album they put out has been a masterpiece, except maybe their debut. They were still finding their sound. Even that one was a near masterpiece for me. I don't count their covers album as well. That one's still pretty excellent. One of the best covers album I've ever heard, but I'm not really a fan of covers albums very often. But Between the Buried and Me are one of the most exciting and adventurous progressive metalcore bands, most impressive musicianship and compositions, performances. They put on a great live show too. I just saw them live not too long ago on this tour. And their last album, Colors 2, was my album of the year for 2021, and I knew if they could maintain that quality, they'd likely be able to get that honor again, and it's going to be pretty hard to top this for this year, so it's pretty likely this will be my album of the year. Spoiler alert for my year-end video. And yeah, all the singles they released ahead of time are amazing. The whole album delivers. Honestly, it was probably better than Colors 2. Really hard. They're very close in quality. I'll need some more listens. But easy album of the year for me right now. Possibly in the running for my album of the decade. I love how they blend genres so well. I love the quirky and fun and unpredictable use of country, southern rock, blues, industrial pop, alternative, and even radio rock mixed in with their heavy side that blends metalcore, death metal, some parts even almost bordering on black metal. And it's really great they can have moments that are so catchy and anthemic, undeniably good even for non-metal listeners, but then also have some of the most extreme, brutal metal intensity all in the same album. Great blend of clean and harsh vocals from Tommy as usual, amazing guitar from Paul, bass from Dan, and Blake is on fire on drums. Dusty's departure from the band turns out to be a complete non-issue in terms of their creativity and their ability to make an amazing album, so completely a non-issue here as far as composition's concerned, and they're still as strong as ever without Dusty in the band, and they still put on a great show with their touring guitarist filling Dusty's shoes, so I think this band can still carry on and do great things despite some member changes, and that's my favorite album of September 2025. Let me know what you think of this list down in the comments. Have you heard all these albums? What are your 10 favorite, or just however many you want to list? What are your favorite albums of September? Is there anything that came out that you think I might like that I didn't mention? Also let me know. And if you're a fan of metal, rock, and prog music, you're in the right place. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, stay in the loop on when I post new videos. I talk about my first impressions of new stuff when it comes out each and every week. My next video, I'll be talking about my first impressions of new music from Thrice, Coheed and Cambria, Big Big Train, Ring Van Mobius, Motorpsycho, Orbit Culture, Hooded Menace, Taylor Swift, weird one in there, and Times Forgotten. So really looking forward to hearing all those and giving my first impressions on those. So stay tuned for that, and peace out.